Hello, 8th graders. We're going on to the last section of Chapter 9 and talking about this post-Jacksonian era. And so today we're going on to better relations with Britain. So we are on page 175. You have a map on the bottom that shows what the British owned at this point in time. And so you have the U.S.-Canadian border after the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842, which you're going to read about. And so you've got what is today's boundary line of Canada with the U.S. And so you've got Maine and Vermont and New York and New Hampshire, all the way around the lakes, with a definitive boundary now between British Canada and the U.S. So we are on better relations with Britain. The Caroline Incident. While the cabinet and Congress squabbled with President Tyler, Secretary of State Daniel Webster conducted delicate negotiations with Great Britain, the most powerful nation in the world. A small group of rebels in the British colony of Canada had staged a revolt, and the Canadian militia had caught a few American gun runners smuggling arms and ammunition by boat across the Niagara River. Being loyal to the crown, the militia set the boat, named the Caroline, afire, killing one American. Fortunately, the New England minister to the United States, Lord Ashburton, was married to an American woman and was known for his friendliness towards the United States. Thanks to Webster and Ashburton, tensions eased between Great Britain and the United States. The Webster-Ashburton Treaty. Another point of contention was the unsettled boundary between Canada and the United States. The situation became threatening in 1838 when Canadian and American lumberjacks clashed over timber in the Aroostook Valley in northern Maine. Once again, Daniel Webster and Lord Ashburton came to an agreement and signed the Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842. By the terms of this treaty, the United States gained more than half of the disputed territory between Maine and Canada. The treaty also settled the United States-Canadian boundary in Lake Champlain country of upstate New York and Vermont, as well as the boundary from Lake Superior to the Lake of the Woods. The efforts of Daniel Webster and Lord Ashburton laid the foundation for the establishment of the long, unfortified, and peaceful boundary in the world between two great nations, Canada and the United States. Great statesmen with Christian principles. Great statesmen continued to guide our country as it grew in population and territory. The United States would soon reach out across North American continent. With this growth came new and important issues involving the tariff, banking, the money supply, and foreign relations. President Andrew Jackson had widely encouraged private rather than special privilege banking and a sound gold-based money system. However, the overriding issue was that states' rights, the rights of individual states in a voluntary federal union, as opposed to a dominating central government. Like many great men like John C. Calhoun, Henry Clay, and Daniel Webster would continue to steer our union on the course conceived by our founding fathers under the Constitution. So some questions to answer from today's reading. Who controlled Canada during this time period? What did the efforts of Webster and Ashburton lay the foundation for? What was the overriding issue of the day? And then some things to identify are the Caroline, Lord Ashburton, Daniel Webster, Webster-Ashburton Treaty of 1842. And so you can see there's a lot of things that we don't even think about that came into the creation of our country and our government and how states run and how the country as a whole runs and what's the difference between national government versus state government. And so there's a lot of pieces that we can see slowly coming into play as more land is acquired, as more men get the right to vote, as different thoughts and opinions about the characteristics of an American are when we think about, is slavery okay? Is slavery not okay? Who should be able to vote? What happens to the Native Americans and those who aren't technically colonized Americans? So there's a lot of issues that we're seeing pop up throughout the United States that some are being handled peacefully, like the Canadian-American border, and some are not being handled peacefully or respectfully, as we saw with the Indian Removal Act. And so as we go into the next chapter, chapter 10, we're going to continue discussing these changes throughout the United States. And so chapter 10 is the blessings of technology. And so we're going to start getting into things like the Industrial Revolution and assembly lines and things like that that really helped allow our country to become one of the greatest nations and also to be self-sufficient and not need to rely so much on Europe for imported goods. And so we're going to move on to that next time.